So between losing my job, losing my mom, a really frustrating misdiagnosis, and then finally getting diagnosed with cancer, that qualifies as kind of the worst 6 months of my life. Like, my whole world fell apart. I knew I was stage 4 right off the bat. You know, that was evident from the CAT scans, even though we didn't even know it's lung cancer yet. We knew that it was everywhere. It felt like this searing hot pain all the way down my spine. I would lie in bed at night with my belly on a pillow and ask my husband to get ice to put on my spine so that I could sleep. It was so intense. It was so intense that I couldn't stop the suicidal thoughts. Deep inside of me, something was like, I know why the deer lies down in front of the wolf den. I was laying awake at night with crazy anxiety and, you know, this sense of panic. And it was really clear to me that if I didn't address this and come to terms with it, that this was going to contribute to killing me. In order to be healthy, in order to come back to life, I had to face death.
I got to know Pam. I feel like we had a connection pretty quickly. And part of my job is to walk alongside the people I care for and help sort through any suffering that they're having. And some of that may be physical symptoms, a lot of it may be the emotional or spiritual distress. It was clear how introspective she was. She's clearly someone who's very in tune with who she is and what's important to her. And right at the first visit, she shared how important it is to live her life on her terms. I thought of looking more into psychedelic assisted therapy with Pam just based on what she shared from the first visit. And it was the second visit, I think a week or two later, that she actually asked about it.
I had read Michael Pollan's book within the year or two before, not ever suspecting that it was going to be applicable to me. And had been really impressed with what a difference it made for people that were facing terminal diagnoses. And so I raised it with her. Said, you know, this is legal in Oregon. Is this, you know, what do you know about this?
As we've had more and more trials and now experience with it, a lot of excitement because we're seeing the huge benefits that psilocybin and other psychedelic therapy can provide patients.
I sat in the presence of the divine for hours. The art was unbelievable. But one of the things that happened to me, that I think happens to a lot of people, is there's this experience of surrender, of more than you could possibly surrender. And that it's in the experience of surrender and the falling, and then discovering that you're okay, that I think is the transformation. And I have to say, it takes a while for that to sink in.
When I think about plant medicine and specifically psilocybin, what we know is indigenous cultures, right, have used this for, probably, millennia now. And it is part of their culture. It is part of what happens and how this unfolds. And there's a community that's built around this. I like to think about the first 48 to 72 hours is a reverberation time, right? Where people are letting all of this settle, right? We've opened up all kinds of neural pathways, and it's a little bit, I like to think of it like the snow globe, right? So we've shook the snow globe, and it's going to take a while for the glitter to settle. And so we're not going to talk about every piece of glitter and why is that piece of glitter that was on the bottom now on the top. We're not going to make meaning of that, but we're going to start to process just sometimes those initial thoughts and feelings, which is really around allowing it to just reverberate, letting things start to soak in. And so that actually absolutely happened for Pam the same day of her journey, not making sense of, but just starting to process. What am I going to do with what I've learned? We do see that the data is driving the science, and we're seeing more and more robust data that is in science that is saying to us there is something here. But more importantly, we're changing the culture around the use of psychedelics, that these are not drugs, and that doesn't mean that people don't use these recreationally, but that's not what Bendable, that's not what I as a facilitator am all about. This isn't about just giving someone an experience. There's lots of ways we can have this. This is about really giving people the opportunity to know themselves at a deeper level. And when we can do that, as people are moving from life to death, it really is an amazing opportunity for people to die well, which really culturally, right, is a hope for many of us.
I think one of the big things that changed is I lost a lot of the fear of that moment of going over the edge and what I was going to experience on the other side of death. But a really important thing to remember is that that's really different than the grief about losing this beautiful life. And there's still a lot of work to do to come to terms with that.
Over the course of time that I've been so privileged to know her, I've seen a shift, and she shared, and it's evident from working with her, a sense of peace and calm. She talks about, of course, the stress of living with cancer, and even though currently she's in a good space, physical symptoms are much improved, and she's doing amazing. But a lot of it has been the work she's done before her journey, of course, the journey itself, and especially the integration work she's done after and continues to do.
When I stopped holding on, and what I found was beauty and art and the divine message of you're just here to be you. You know, blossom like a flower. That's all the divine wants of you is if you're a poppy, be a poppy. That's it. Just do that. And to land in love and affirmation. I think that's a big part of the transformation. at least I can be healthy and alive and here and really living these days and hours and hopefully years that I do have.